So now we're going to be looking at the legs here at the bottom. This is nothing new. We're going to be doing some of the same things we did before. But let's now turn the canvas back on so we can take a look at what we're looking at. To create this leg, I'm going to make use of the pipe command again under create pipe. I'm also going to say no change selection, and I'm going to select only this one piece of the sketch. Here again, the system assumes that I would like to cut a piece of my existing geometry, but this time again, I'm going to say a new body. You'll also notice that the section size remains at 20 millimeters. This is persistent, and since the legs and the back of the lamp are the same size, we'll leave it at that. Creating a new body, we'll say OK. And we'll begin to think about how we can get the other legs onto the lamp. This is where my use of the origin, which we can now turn on using the eye bulb, becomes fortuitous. If you see here, I have 1, 2, 3 lamp legs, and they look to be circular in a circular pattern about this central axis. That is precisely the reason why I placed this origin here, directly under this nodal point here. So, to create a pattern, I would say create, pattern. There are several options, but I will take the circular pattern. And the circular pattern also has several options about what I would like to pattern. I do not wish to pattern faces of this model. I would like, for convenience sake, to pattern entire bodies. That's why it's a good idea that when we created this last leg, it was a separate new body. Which body would I like to select? I can select it here, or I can select it here. Makes no difference, and you can see that object is selected. As before, with the other pattern we created, or with the rotation we created, I will need to select axis, and this time I will be selecting the reference axis in the Z direction, which I turned on using the eyeball function from before. Since I've already done this a number of times, my quantity of 3 will be persistent, and I will have 3 legs in the preview. If you do not have 3, it's no problem. Just put in 3, and you should have something that looks very similar to this. You'll now be able to say OK, and this will create 2 additional bodies in your model. And we can continue on to think about this 4th leg. Now, we could create a reference plane here and do a mirror about that plane. That would be effective and it would work. But I wanted to show you something else about the way Fusion works, which is quite special and not really the norm. Fusion has this body created, it's body 3. And if I click here in the browser, I can right mouse button on this and I can say copy. I've copied that body, and then I can go to the top level of this browser in the part, and I would like to right mouse button that, and I would like to paste this copy body. This creates another body, which just so happens to be in the exact same position as the other one. But if I zoom out a bit, you'll see it a bit more clearly. We also have the Gizmo, and the Gizmo will allow me to move this thing in 3 dimensions if I so wish. I actually only want to move it in the plane. So follow my lead closely and make sure that this end ends up at this end. That will be important later. So let's just twist, and then we can use the movement in the plane to get it just about where we want to go. And moving by degrees. Remember, this is a concept model. The perfect is the enemy of the good. I like to bring it right about here. Might want to zoom in a little bit and look at this junction here. But that looks pretty good to me. I don't want to belabor the point too much. Should be good for my concept model. And once I'm done with this, I can say, okay, it's very important that this end is also outside. And you'll see why later. Now, if you didn't believe me before, let's twist that model a bit. Turn the canvas off, and you can see we're getting a very close approximation to what we had in my canvas from before. Now, we have no need whatsoever now for the sketch, so let's turn that off. But let's look at that canvas one more time. And you'll notice that my canvas, if I turn the bodies off, you'll see it quite clearly. My canvas has rounded ends, and it also has wooden feet. That's a bit of a problem because I've created these legs and they are not rounded and they are not split into separate surfaces where I could make one look like wood and the other one look like black plastic. Now, for some of you, you'll be thinking, oh, well, that's no problem. I could probably just modify each individual leg. And that's perfectly fine. You could do so, but it would not be very elegant. And there is something that we can do that is much better. I'm going to show you in the next section.
We'll be right back.